Hello everyone, and thank you again for taking this course on how to grade on Schoology at the secondary level. As I mentioned in the intro video, this is sort of a introduction to this topic, and I offer additional links to other courses I teach on Schoology. They have links to much more, in-depth videos that go sort of a deeper dive into all of this. So this course is geared for those who are just starting out and just kind of want to know what the options are and how do I get started, and what can I do with Schoology. All right, so I'm going to be working in two different courses. A template course that I've created that just sort of doesn't really exist. This is one that you can kind of use to kind of organize your materials. A lot of people like to organize aspects also in resources. I like to organize mine in just a fake course because I can just push it out to my courses easier. It's like a shell of what I do throughout the year. And this is a course, my military history course that I worked in last year. So it's an archived course, okay? So one of the first things, I think one of the most important things is setting up Schoology to sync with your gradebook. I think that's really important, okay? So right here, how do we set up Schoology to sync with PowerSchool? I think that's really, really, really important, okay? So you gotta go into two different areas here. First is gonna be Gradebook, and then the second is going to be PowerSchool, okay? So you're gonna have to do kind of both here. Okay, so we're going to go to Gradebook, setup. So we're going to go to Gradebook Setup. So you actually have to set up the gradebook in Schoology. Now you're not really going to be using the Schoology gradebook, but you need to set it up so it can kind of sync the assignments in the right place. Now, your categories are going to say they'll be empty. So you'll have to create the same categories that are existent on PowerSchool. So the ones that you can use are classwork, discussion, homework, project, quiz, and test. So those ones that are available on PowerSchool. So how do you make a category? Just press add. Okay, and then you can just type in what you want there. You can leave all this blank. Okay, so that's the very first thing you actually have to do. The grading periods are set up by districts. You have to really worry about that, and that's pretty much it. Then press Save Changes. So again, classwork, discussion, homework, project, quiz, and test. Okay, now after that point, you will need to go into your PowerSchool settings on Schoology. So you go into PowerSchool, and this is going to be where you're going to connect the categories in Schoology to the categories in PowerSchool. So you're going to go to Configuration. Okay, go to Configuration here. This is going to load up. Takes a moment here. A little slow. I'm not sure if it's because this course is expired or not. It should work. Let's try to refresh that page one more time. And we'll go to configuration here at the top. There it goes. So yours will have different things here. They'll be blank, but these will be the categories that you have created on Schoology in the grade setup area. Make sure they match the PowerSchool categories that are available. So classwork goes to classwork, discussion goes to discussion, homework goes to homework, project goes to project, quiz, test. And that's make sure that you can save it. Now, this is an important checkbox. So it's automatically unchecked. So sometimes you might make an assignment title in Schoology that's very long and elaborate. Well, that's nice, but if you then try to sync it, PowerSchool only allows assignment characters up to 50 characters for an assignment. So check this, and it automatically shortens the titles, and you won't have any problems then syncing to Schoology to PowerSchool. Okay, so make sure you check this box. That's really important. Your categories match up, and you press Save Changes. Okay, so that's an important step there too. Okay, now you have to do this for every single course that you are enrolled in, that you have available. If you've linked your courses, which I have done, I've linked all my courses together. You need to go in and go into each section of your course. So I teach 4 sections of this last year, and I linked all my courses together into one. And now you will need to go back and go to configuration for each section that you have created, or for each course that you're involved in. Okay, you have to do that just on both sides. You got to do the gradebook side and the PowerSchool side. Okay, so make sure that you do that. Okay, so that's really kind of the first really big important step, is making sure everything is linked together, and then you can go into PowerSchool. Now, how do I sync my grade? So I have a grade. I have an assignment that's graded. I already graded it in Schoology. Now I have a lot of assignments here. This is where it's not the best system in the way PowerSchool syncs with Schoology. It will continue to show you all of your assignments throughout the year. And depending on how you label your assignments, it's labeled in alphabetical order, and not by when you created them. So you're gonna have to go through your list of assignments and click until you find one. And once you find one, you press the sync button. Now I'm not want to do this because it'll mess everything up, okay? And you press the sync button, okay? That's important. So just press the sync, and then it will sync that grade, and if it's right, you'll have a date when it was synced. If it's wrong, you'll get an error message, okay? So that's important. And we'll talk about some reasons why you might have some errors in this when we get to making assignments and so forth. So you sync it. Now, what's important is that Schoology syncs by the date the assignment was given. So if assignment's given, it will put it into the right quarter. Now, here's a really important tip. Sometimes we assign certain aspects at the end of a quarter. It's like the last week. But we say, you know what, this is going to be on the next quarter. You know, say it's the end of the first quarter. It's like, you know, whatever. It's like the second week of November. You say, you know what, we're going to push this to the second quarter. And then you go back in the second quarter, and then you sync that assignment. If that assignment's due date is in the first quarter, it will change all your first quarter grades. So if you ever push an assignment out to the next quarter, make sure you go back into Schoology and change the due date of that assignment so it reflects the quarter you want it to be in. I made that mistake, and it messes up your gradebook, and you don't want to do that. Okay, so that's kind of really the first important step, is creating this PowerSchool sort of situation in Schoology where you can sync your grades. And that's a lot of fun. Okay, it makes things a lot easier in terms of going back and forth. All right, so that's kind of the first really important aspect here. Now, another thing that I talked about is how do I link courses, okay? Because it's something that maybe you want to do if you're grading and you want to put all your courses together. How do I link those? Okay, so how do I link a course together? Now, unfortunately, I wish I can kind of show you this, but if you go to your courses page, and you're going to have to go to My Courses here. And unfortunately, I only have now singletons. I don't have my new courses yet for the year. These are some old courses, and I have some archive courses. But if you're in your courses and you see this little gear button, okay, it's going to say link existing sections, okay? Now, I can't show you this because these aren't real courses yet. We don't have our courses yet. But this is where you would click on this button, and once you do that, it will actually show you, which I can even do a different one. Nope, they're all kind of grayed out, unfortunately. If I go to my archive sections, I don't know if I go back years ago, before I did this, I linked them for a while. So see, these are from a few years ago. I don't know if it's gonna let me do this. Okay, it does. All right, great. I can show you this. So this is how we'll view if you teach 4 sections of the same thing like I did. You're gonna have section 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? Well, how do I do that? How do I put these, if I want to bring them together, you know, what advantage is this? Well, you don't have to keep on pushing materials out to each section. Everything's kind of organized under one. And when you make assignments, everything's also organized into one area. You don't have to make assignments for every single section. It's really convenient. So hit the link existing sections button, okay? And then it's going to say, which ones do you want to link? And you click on the ones that you want to link, and you go next. And then you're going to, you know, do you want to download them? I've never really done this. Fine, download and next. And then I'm not going to go to this section. I'm not going to hit this button yet, but that's all you do is link sections, and that's it. I really recommend doing this at the very beginning. If you already started grading and making materials for each of your individual sections, so it downloaded your gradebook for you. You don't want to start doing that after the fact. So at the beginning of the year, if you want to link your sections together, this is the way to actually do that. So if I go to my archive course from last year, you're going to kind of see when you make that linked section, see how it changes the title. So now this is the title of my course, section 3, 5, 6, and 7. Now, you will not know which period these are. If you're especially in the high school and you have periods, or whether, you know, it doesn't tell you. This could, last year I was lucky, it went in order of my periods. But a year before that, it didn't. So I may have period 3, period 4, 5, 9, and that gets a little bit confusing. So you have to like write it down, because you can't, I know some people like to make the icon of their course be like a number, so period 3 or period 9. Well, once you do that, it's going to override it. So you have to make some sort of general icon for all your courses. Okay, but what's nice is here is that everything's linked together. Students only see one course. When you add materials to your course, everything is the same. Okay, and we'll talk about adding assignments momentarily. So everything is kind of linked together in one spot for all your sections. And if you go into an assignment, let me just go into an assignment really quickly, an older one, I guess. And these are for all your classes. They're all together. If I open up the assignment, you can now go to section 3, section 5, section 6, section 7. They're all there together. So they're all in one spot. You don't have to keep on going in and out of your courses to grade the exact same thing. So it's a really, really helpful aspect. Okay, so that is how you link your sections together. Now moving on here, other things that we want to talk about with assessment. How do you create assignments in Schoology? So we'll go back to this main course here that I was working in for my military history class. Is how do I assess in an online course? I mean, I think really one of the easiest ways within Schoology, certainly there's a few, but you're going to be in your add material section, okay? Obviously add an assignment, okay? And we have add tests and we have quizzes and so forth, okay? Now, add an assignment is certainly the easiest way to actually do this, okay? So when you add an assignment in Schoology, you have some options of what the assignment will be. Basically, at its bare minimum, you're creating a spot for students to submit work, to drop work in, okay? So we just call this a test assignment. Here's where you can give the description of the assignment. It's like a full text editor where you can insert content and images and links. You can even insert a video in here if you want to have a video direction from YouTube. Anything from your Google Drive you can insert in here. You can write out the directions, so forth. It's really kind of nice. Here is where you can select the scale. We'll talk about rubrics momentarily. You can select, you want to just have a numeric grade. Your categories, this are the categories that you established earlier, so make sure you watch that part again about creating gradebook categories and setting up for Schoology, okay? Now this is important. If you are seeking your grades, make sure you don't just do ungraded because it won't sync. You gotta make sure you map it to an actual category. You set your points here. The grading period is what usually just standard for what the district gives us. And here's if you have your sections linked together like I showed you, you can now only make the due date for one class. But maybe you want to change it. You want to say, you know what, maybe section 3, I'll give it this due date, and everyone else has a different due date. Or you can do each individual section. So even though if you linked your sections, you still have the ability to control when things are due for students. Okay. If you have learning objectives, you can line them up. You can also individually assign assignments to different people. Now, this is where I wish Schoology would create groups, because you can create a grading group, but you can't grade the group together. You still have to grade people individually. So if you want to create different assignments for different groups, unfortunately, you have to create an assignment for each individual group if you want to grade that group. It gets a little bit cumbersome. We're really working with Schoology to kind of change that, but you can't individually assign. And you can kind of assign to a student, and their names will come up. Or I had like teams, group, period 1, group 1. All right, and I'll show you how to make those in a moment. Okay, so you can do that, which is really kind of nice. And you can have, comments enabled. Students can comment on the assignment, and you can copy it to your other courses right from here if you really wanted to. But if you have your sections linked, you don't have to. And you press create, and that's all you've done. You've created a test assignment. Okay, so what does this mean? So if you want them to upload something, a document, a Word file, anything, at the very, very bottom here, it will appear. You can always move these up and down where you want to put them into. Okay, and there you go. So now you got some options here though too. You can edit it, you can unpublish it. Right now it's published. You can make sure it's not published. You can save it to your resources if you want to save this for future reference, or you can always go back to archive courses to view it later. Okay, and you open up the test assignment. And at this point, you would see student submissions, any comments they have, and these submissions would appear on this side of the screen. You can toggle through your sections if you really wanted to. You can edit the grades right here. You can grade it right through here. You can put the grades in for each of this assignment. This was a numeric one, so there were no rubrics. You just put the grades in. Any comments you put here, and if you click Show to Student, when you sync in your gradebook, these comments will appear in PowerSchool. I love that aspect to it. I think it's really helpful. There's some statistics, information about the actual assignment, and this will just be a simple upload assignment. So what you can do is you can always view your course as a student. Okay, you can always do that. Okay, so this is not giving me the option right now because I think this course is archived. So unfortunately, I wish I can do this for you. I cannot view it as a student. But here, if you go into this section, I don't have any current students with me, so I can't really do that for you guys. But I can't view the course as a student from this standpoint, unfortunately. So what you can do is view as a student. Click on this little drop down, and then you can see from the student perspective what it would actually look like. That's a nice important tip too. So that's your basic, creating just a basic assignment in Schoology. Okay, now what are options though? So we go back to that screen. I could just edit this one. There are some other options here, and this is more of just like what's out there. If you are a Google Drive user, you can do Google Drive assignments, and it will add an assignment from your Google Drive. So if you want students to work on a Google Doc or something, I have this like grants note. I'm going to attach it. This will create a copy for each, it makes a copy of each Google Doc for your student, and they can edit it. So that's a nice thing. So if we do save changes now to this, the assignment will look different. Okay. So now this appears, it's a little bit of a different section. So it shows you how many in progress. So if you want to go into that student's Google Doc and see how they're working on it, you can. You can click on each student, you can go right into their Google Doc and see what's going on. Once a student submits it, the submissions will be in here. You can grade it. And if you had a rubric attached, it would appear here. And I'll show you about rubrics in a moment. You can just click on the rubric and grade the assignment right through there. So you can assign Google Docs. If you're a Google Classroom user, this is sort of a similar situation. Only difference is you can't assign multiple Google Docs in the same assignment. Only one Google Doc or slide or whatever can be attached to one assignment. Okay, so that's kind of the main thing there. Now, I have a whole course on Kami, which I like to do. Kami is that online PDF annotating tool. So check those courses out. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Let me get out of here. Go to the bottom here of my courses. It just opened everything up, which I really didn't want to do here. Okay, just refresh the page. You can also assign Kami documents to an assignment. So if you know what that tool is, check it out. If you're not familiar with that tool, it's okay, but you have all these little Kami assignments. So basically I did was, let me just edit this. And when I made the assignment, I assigned it as a Kami. It's acting a little bit strange here. Let me get out of here. Go back to my courses. So go back to my archive courses. Sorry about that. Got a little glitchy there. Okay, so we go to the bottom of the page. That's what we're trying to do for you. That test assignment. Let it load up. There it is. If I edit it again, because we've been working on it, I can get rid of that. Already attach it. So once you attach a Google Doc assignment, you really can't do much to edit it. So that's the only problem there. Okay, but if you want, you can also do I did a test Kami assignment. I can edit this. And I basically upload assignment from Kami. So I hit the Kami button. I found a PDF. The PDF is attached here. Every student gets a copy of that PDF, and when they open the assignment up, it opens in Kami, and they can annotate that PDF, and then I can grade all their annotations on that as well. And I did have a rubric attached to it, but I'll get to rubrics in a moment. Okay, so that's kind of make a basic assignment in Schoology. Okay. Now, other grading options in Schoology are to add a test and a quiz. Okay. And again, you can name this, test, quiz, scale, category, whatever you want it to be, whatever period you want it to be, due dates and so forth, create it. And now this is the basic editor. You can add questions. You have true, false, multiple choice, and ordering, short answer questions, fill in the blank, matching. I'm not going to get into question banks in here and import tests and quizzes here. This is a really complicated aspect. I have additional courses I teach on Schoology that we go over this. And then you can create a quiz. So if you had a true false question, you just go in and you keep on making your questions, and you can give them the correct answer, and you can do a timed question. You can put in our point you want it to be, and you create each question manually. Now it does take time, but if you really want to do this, it works great. I can show you some test quizzes that I've put together. So I can go to my quiz folder here. And we had a lot of different ones. I can open this one up, and you can kind of see, once you get to there are all the questions. Now, mine say a random set. This is more the complicated aspect. I created a bunch of questions, turned into a question bank, and then it only picked those questions randomly. Now, please, I will attach an additional resources link in this little mini course where I give you additional resources for other courses I offer on more advanced Schoology features where we go over this. But in terms of settings, when you make an online quiz, you can put your instructions in here. You got to enable submissions. You can do a time limit. You don't have to. How many attempts? 1, unlimited. You can kind of set that up. You can randomize the order. You can give them review after each question. It tells them what they got right or wrong and why. Resumable is important. If they glitch out and they can't finish the quiz, they can certainly go back into it and finish it, and they can view their grades at the end of the quiz. And you have some options there. Preview. It shows you the preview of what your quiz will look like. The results obviously are important for grading and any comments from people's submissions that they might have had. That's a basic way to create multiple choice, true, false, random order questions in Schoology. Now, another option for assessing in Schoology is creating an assessment. Now, this is a little bit different than an assignment. They're initially going to merge all of these together, but they still have kept them separated. So I can add an assessment. Okay. And again, we can call this a test assessment. You can do your, numeric category, whatever you want to do it as, the point value, the due dates. You can enable and disable them right here. This is a little bit different. There's also a password. If you want it to be a certain password, maybe you've closed this off and you have a certain number of students who didn't take it, and you can maybe make them have a password. That's fine. And again, if you have combined your sections like I have, you can assign it to individual sections or individual students as well. Okay, you can do that too. So you press create. And now this is a little bit of a different, see how it looks a little different, it's a different overview. You have a whole setup here, how you want to set up your assessment, your instructions, the time limit, randomizing the question order. You can kind of set up, how students review questions. They can eliminate answer choices. It gives you a little bit more options than the other basic test quiz generator that Schoology has had. Text to speech is in there. Students can highlight text. All right, number of attempts. So this is a little bit more robust in terms of what you can do. The questions that are available also are much more varied. Multiple choice questions, true, false, matching order, fill in the blank, fill in the drop down. That's different. Fill in blank, drag and drop. A short answer key. Okay, audio, video, file upload, label the image, hotspot. Really some neat number line, math short answer. So you can certainly have a great variety of what you want to do with these in terms of making a quiz. Okay, the grading is going to be the same thing. I was going to sort them by question or by student if you want to see what the results were. Obviously, depending on which sort of question you choose. A lot of these will be a self-grading, which is really nice. Other ones might not be. They gotta label an image, highlight a text, short answer kind of questions. Obviously, you need to go through them and read them. But you can insert audio or video files and have them, watch a video and comment on it, sort of taking the place of an Ed puzzle, I guess. And then the reporting, the kind of like the overall results, and you would see that there. So if you have data, you would see all your data there. So that's kind of just another sort of option there. Both work great. I think my sort of, I guess, advice would be to play around with both. Which one works better for you? Which one do you find is much more useful for your needs? I think the older version is a little bit easier to navigate. The newer version is nice, so it has many more options, but a little harder, I think, initially to get used to. And I think those are kind of two aspects there that are really super important. Okay, so those are kind of your main ways to add different types of assessments for grading in Schoology. Okay, now hopefully that was helpful there for you. Another thing I want to talk about is, I think, one of the most greatest features of Schoology is making a rubric. Okay, now usually I like to create all my materials in the course that I'm working in, whether it be an active course or an archive course. But for making rubrics, I really suggest making rubrics in a resources area first. So what you can do is you can add a folder here, like I did, and then you can add a rubrics folder. And I open up my rubrics folder, and now in this folder, I can add a rubric. Okay, so that's really kind of nice. So with the rubrics, I have a lot of rubrics I've used for different classes. And once you make a rubric, which I'll show you how to do that momentarily, you have to add the rubric to your course. So you over here, in the little gear box, you're going to see that. And you add to course. So you can select which courses you want the rubric to appear in. And then when you make an assignment, which I'll go back to, you'll see the rubric as one of the options in that course. Okay, so I can kind of open up some rubrics here. This is like just a general discussion rubric. You can see some of them are very multifaceted. You have a criteria, the grading scale, the points, which are really kind of nice. Other ones that I've done, team note sheet and team rubrics. Now some of these are really great. Now some of these rubrics I have 0 points, which I mean here is that it doesn't take points off, but what it will do is it will mark this. So something that you wanted to maybe mark as a comment on the rubric, say, oh, it's like I had a Google Doc was missing, Flipgrid was missing, Cami was missing. I marked it. It didn't take any points off, but it definitely had issues there with that. So you can add word points, have 0 points just to kind of mark them. And I believe sometimes I've done this as well, is for their final project. If it was late, I took off points. And let me find that one here for you so you can kind of see that. Project. Got a lot of rubrics here. So their final video project, and this is really extensive, had a lot of different aspects to it, but then at the very end I put late. So 1 day late, -5, minus, I made it a minus, and it actually does take the points off. So that's kind of nice too. You could award points, but if you put in a minus, it actually will take those points off. So it's kind of something nice to kind of keep in mind. So how do you make one? So if I go here, I'm going to go to right at the bottom here, add rubric, and I'll just call this a test rubric. And here it starts off with one criteria. You can give it a title, whatever you want it to be. I don't know, historical analysis, something like that. You can add a description here of what the students are going to have, and it gives you the default of 4 points. But you can change it. You can make this now 10, and then you can change this to 8. Whoops. Okay, something like that. 8. You can add a category in between here. You can add a grading cell, the little plus button. See that? Plus button. It kind of mimics the one to the left, so you have to kind of change that down. It just copies it. And then you can kind of make as many points as you want, and you can change the descriptions here and add just descriptions of what each grading aspect is. It's really kind of an easy setup. Add another criteria. You just keep on doing it. Now it will copy the one that was above it in terms of the point structure. And you can certainly change it though. You can delete one of these if you wanted to. Make this, it doesn't have to be the same amount of boxes or points. It can be different. You can add a criteria, see how it kept the one above it, and then you can obviously add more categories. You have to play with the numbers here, and the total points keeps on adding up as you add points to this. And that's really it. It's a really simple rubric generator, which is really nice. You can add learning objectives if you have all these that are linked to different standards if you need to do that. And you press create. I'm not going to do that. Now, if I go back to my courses, and if I go back to my archive course I was working in here for you guys from last year, and I go back to my sections. Now we're talking about adding assignments, right? So I can just go to these test assignments. Oops, sorry. I'll go down the bottom here to these ones I've already made. So test assignment, let me edit this test assignment. And now, see, it says scale numeric. Well, I can change it, and it has all the rubrics that I've added to my course. Okay, and I can do this team note sheet. It changed the points automatically, which is really kind of nice. It puts all the various categories right here for the students. And I press save changes. So now when I go into an assignment, if I go into that assignment now, it shows you that there's a rubric attached to it because it has all the different criteria from the rubric there with it already. And I open it up, and now I don't have any, it gives you the students the actual rubric that they'll see this, so they know exactly what they're being scored on. And if I had any submissions, which I don't, I'll go to some documents I do, you can score it right here. Okay, so let me look for some sample assignments from last year that I can show you how they were scored. Okay. I'm sure there's a bunch in here. So I use these all the time. So for discussions, these were rubrics. So I have a general discussion rubric. I open this discussion. And as students post, there's all the discussions. As students post a discussion, the rubric will appear here. So I can just go into here. I can click on the rubric, and I can grade it as I want. Boom, 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 boom. And I'm done. And if I click on this, and if I add a comment, again, when I sync my grades to PowerSchool, the score will appear in PowerSchool, and the comment, if I click on this box, will also appear in PowerSchool. So for grading discussions or anything, you have submissions, you can easily go through this, click the rubric, and score it, and you're really good to go. I love actually using my phone for this. It works really well with the Schoology app. I've already posted some other courses about how to use the Schoology app as well. Okay, so I think that's really super useful right there. So that's just a general discussion assignment. That could be any kind of rubric. If you click over here, it shows you all the grades of all your students. And then you can go ahead and click on the rubrics from here as well. Okay, so that's kind of nice too. A different way, if it's attached to a Google Doc, it's going to look a little different. Or even a Kami assignment, it looks a little different. So I go in the Kami assignment. Actually, Kamis don't. Kamis look the exact same way. I can go into each student's submission here on the side. If this is a side submission one, they uploaded something. There's your rubric. So there it is. I can score it. I can mark it something that wasn't really for any points, but I just want to let them know that I recognized it. And I go on to the next student. So if you did that initial assignment drop setup, that's how you would grade it with a rubric. You just go from student work to student work over here, clicking through the work. You can then click on the rubric. Boom, 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 boom. And this is something new. Kami cannot be used to grade this assignment because a valid Kami cannot be found. That's okay. But you can also grade with Kami as well. That's a new feature. So this was not available last time. So this is something brand new. I never saw this before. So obviously they're always adding aspects. So you can also grade with Kami too. You can add your comments here. Now if you add a comment here, this is not the comment that will appear in PowerSchool. The student will have to go back into the assignment to view the comment. But if you put a comment over here, this is the comment that will appear in PowerSchool. All right. Now, again, you have to teach your students to go back into the assignment and to click on the boxes to see the rubric. They don't know this automatically. So you got to go tell them, hey, go back in, look for this little icon of the rubric squares, click on it to see all your feedback. Make sure you tell them that. So that's how you would click through an assignment that's graded through just a traditional sort of drop box on Schoology. Okay. Another type of assignment that I think I mentioned a lot are Google Docs that we talked about before. And I can find one here. Here, these are class notes. This was a Google Doc assignment. You'll see how it looks different. If I go to submissions now, see how I can put a submission on here. I could click on the rubric and I can grade the rubric right here. I can put the gradebook comment right here. And if I put share and I press save, I'm not going to cancel all this. the comment will appear in PowerSchool once the Google Doc is actually graded. So there you go. So you can grade your Google Docs right through here with the rubric and keep on going from student to student, and you're good. So it's really kind of an easy way to kind of workflow is grading with a rubric, making comments right there. If you like to put comments on the Google Doc, you still can. You can do your comments right here on the Google Doc as well while you're grading the rubric. So that's really nice too. So you kind of have full access to your Google sort of tools. And at the same time, you can grade here as well. So really nicely kind of put together in terms of nice compact workflow there. So that's how I think rubrics are very, very effective. Another thing I want to show you here are grading groups. Now this is an area where I think Schoology needs to improve upon. So if I go to members, these are all members that were in my course last year. And I have these grading groups. So if I click on this one, it has all the students in this group. Okay, and I can assign work to this group individually, which is nice, but I'll have to make an assignment. If I really want to make a separate assignment, I have to make an assignment for each group, which I think is cumbersome. The other problem is that if I want to use a rubric or grade it, I still have to grade each individual in the group. So I'm really hoping that Schoology changes this so that if I grade the group as a whole, I can't have that option. So I have to keep on going through each student still. But you can create grading groups. All you do is add a grading group and you give it a name and you just highlight the students you want to be in that group. That's it. It's really kind of easy. And you can kind of change and edit it. You can edit the group. You can change the name of the group. That's pretty much it. Okay, so that when you then go back into your assignments, okay, if you go back into assignments here, I can make an assignment, right? And I can assign it to, well, actually, let me go down to an assignment that we've been playing around with these test assignments. I can edit this assignment, so we get to making more and more test assignments. And I can have a test assignment here. There it is, right? And I can then now go down to the bottom here and I can assign individually. So I can assign it and I can then type in that grading group's name. So I think I had period 1, right? Group 1 or group 2. And I can keep on assigning this only to certain groups. But again, it's wonderful. But the problem is you still have to grade each individual student in that group. And if you really wanted to really customize this and make it for differentiated instruction, you have to then create multiple assignments for each group, which can be kind of cumbersome. So I hope Schoology addresses that issue because I think there's some great potential here. But you can create grading groups in Schoology. Okay. Another aspect that is a little harder, that there's actually, I teach a whole course on this, is actually using turnitin.com to grade assignments on Schoology. So this is a deep dive, not this one. There is a deep dive course on this. So if I add an assignment, and let me go, I'm just going to call it a Turnitin example. You can give it a description, but the difference here is I'm going to create this little external tool button. Hope everybody saw that external tool button. And when you do that, what you're going to see here is you're going to do the drop down and you're going to put in Turnitin. Okay, and I'm just going to call this test assignment, test Turnitin, and I'm going to press submit. And I can still do my rubrics here like I've done before, whatever the case may be, the due dates, the assignments, everything we've done before for how to make an assignment, and I press create. Oh, I missed one thing. I didn't do the category. Sorry about that. I'll just do ungraded for now. Make sure your categories are matched up with your syncing for PowerSchool. And I'll go to the bottom here to turn in an example. And this is kind of nice. So what you're going to see here is this assignment's there. You're going to have to go into this little Turnitin to set it up. You go into that. And you have to go into each class. If you have linked your sections, you'll have to do this multiple times. If you have not linked your sections, you'll have to go in and do this. Now, the important thing is that you have to do this, because if you don't do this, your students won't be able to get into this inbox. You can give it a test title. You can do instructions here, due dates here. You can even set up a rubrics. I don't want to go into all this right now, but basically you press submit, and now students can submit this assignment to Turnitin when they go into the assignment. And what does that mean? What does it look like? Well, if you're familiar with Turnitin is a plagiarism checker, but it also is a much more robust editor in terms of editing assignments and giving feedback, I should say, for assignments. Okay. So if I can just maybe show you some sample assignments, which I can do, trying to give you just a sense of what this would look like. So if I go to, trying to think of what would be the best place to go. I'll look at some of their final projects real quickly. So we do a final project, which is a large research project, but also a video project. And these are the assignment drops for that project. And this was their script. The script was a kind of a big deal, a researched, fully cited paper, basically. Now, some students still submitted it here, which I'm glad they did. And if I can just show you an example, if they submit it here, this is like your usual sort of interface with a written piece of work on Schoology. You can do some things like highlighting a text. You can strike some text out. You can add sticky notes. If you have a pen, you can draw on it. And that's really it for giving feedback. There's not that much there to giving feedback through grading. I think it takes a lot more time. Okay, so if I click out of this though, and I go into my Turnitin submission box, here you'd see that this is much different. So if you're familiar with Turnitin.com, this is mostly for middle school and for high school subscriptions. I can go into a student's paper and I can see if they viewed my comments or not. I can check for the matching text, but I can also grade it, and I can click on that button, and it brings up a much more robust feedback, where Turnitin has wonderful feedback. I can do bubble comments. I can highlight and strike out text. So they're doing a new tour of the feedback studio here. See, this is perfect. This is something new. This is all you can do. You can highlight text and leave a comment. All these great little side panels. You can kind of layer your feedback. I don't know why they're going through the tour again. I've used this many times. All right, is the tour over? Let's hope so. Let me get out of here and go back and do it again. All right, here we go. I can show you this. So you have, see, everything loads up. So you can have a rubric in Turnitin, which is fine. I have a rubric here where you just kind of slide it to what you think would be the range of the grade. There's a whole rubric editor. You can check for all your matching text and so forth, and it will show the layer of similar matching text. So anything that's highlighted was matching text, okay? Things of that nature. I'll just play with this one page as much. You could sort of, highlight the text. You can strike it out. You can do a comment, or I have quick comments. So quick comments are great. So I've made all these comments ahead of time, and I have them as a whole bank of comments. I can just leave my comments anywhere I want. I just boom, hit it. That's great. I can change the color of the comment. I can attach to a rubric. So you could do a much more sophisticated marking of text than what you can do on Schoology. But again, this is just an intro to this. There's more courses I teach on using Turnitin as a feedback tool. So that's another way you can give feedback, is using Turnitin as a full sort of feedback, and also you can check for plagiarism as well. And it doesn't have to be text. You can upload images here. It could be lab files. It could be math assignment sheets. It could be anything. PDFs, images, text files, Word docs, Google Docs. So anything they want, you can upload here and grade it in Schoology. Okay, so that's kind of a nice aspect to it as well. Okay, thank you so much.